everyone. Welcome to the STEERus Weekly Grind. We are very fortunate today. We've got Indresh Chauhan, who's the Vice President of Sales and Business Development at Sify eLearning. Now you're saying Sify eLearning, if that's a name that's unfamiliar to you, well, open your ears because you're going to be hearing a lot about them. They're one of the folks who have been pioneering e-learning at the space of virtual reality. So making training seem very real. And it's certainly a fantastic way to be able to reinforce any of the lessons that are taught. So without me stealing his thunder any further, hi, Indresh, welcome to the show.
Hello, Loralyn. Thank you for having us here. And, I just want to say, it's such a pleasure to be speaking to your wonderful audience.
Well, we're glad to have you because I said, you guys have been at this for a little while. You're kind of ahead of the curve. Maybe in your own words, you could talk a little bit about Sify eLearning and some of the initiatives that you folks are doing right now, because it's fascinating in the world of training.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So we've been around in the learning space for almost well over 2 decades. We've helped our customers with content, with platforms, with virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence. Loralyn, all this technology talk that I'm kind of speaking is really nothing there without the human element, right? So everything centers around people, around human interactions, and how people work. The one thing that is becoming absolutely clear to everyone is learning is at the core of the entire transformation that is happening in society and in companies and organizations, because every day we are learning, right? We are learning to do different things. We are learning to learn new technologies. We are learning to communicate. We are learning to interact. We are learning to solve problems. We are learning to innovate. So learning is really at the core of everything that we do on a daily basis. And that's going to continue forever and ever. Earlier, our focus was technology. Getting excited with virtual reality and augmented reality. But really, it's about human development. And so how can these technologies leverage and accelerate human development is really at the core of everything that we do.
Fantastic. And I appreciate that clarification, because I think too many people have become enamored with different technologies. And there's countless examples where I look even back in my own career where I started and joined into the whole field of molecular biology when it was actually like a field. Now it's just really a tool, right? I mean, we moved from like PCR and DNA sequencing, and that was, now it's just, it's, an experiment you run, so the technology aspect and the shininess of that diminishes. But like, as you said, the one thing that always stays is, what is that lesson that's been retained and learned from, by doing?
Right, absolutely. And how does that make us better humans, better people? That really is why we are here, Loralyn, on this earth, to become better.
I like that. We're going to put that quote when we do all of the push out on social. So let's dive in here. You guys, like I said, are at the forefront. You've got tons of clients. You're constantly engaged with them. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And even maybe within your own group at Sify eLearning, what are you seeing with respect to employee struggles? What are they struggling with right now?
Yeah, so the employee struggle is a very, I would say, a human struggle. And that struggle is to find meaning and purpose in life. You see, the great resignation, why is that happening? Yes, jobs and pays and all of those working conditions, but at the heart of it is really, how do people find meaning and purpose to what they're doing? And so for us, that's the piece that we see. And for my own team in Sify, we help our team members to understand that there are things which are bigger than they are, right? We are trying to solve problems which are bigger than us. So it's always to look at something which is really the piece that is driving all of us forward. So the point is not to just focus on ourselves, but to look beyond and to see how we are helping others and how we are helping the world become a better place. I think that struggle is really about finding meaning and purpose. I just put it that way.
I think it is too. And in this regard, I think Gen Z or Gen Z, for our American audience, that they've kind of been ahead of the pack with respect to that Gen Z's really been on the forefront of saying, I need purpose. I'm not passionate about this. I don't want to do this. And now it's starting to trickle into the other generations that are in the workforce, and they're seeing, wow, what amazing conviction this young generation and this next generation of leaders has. If they don't like it and they don't believe in it, they walk.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if we think about some of the examples and initiatives that are going on right now to try to manage the Great Resignation, to try to manage this global interest in people finding purpose in their lives, what are some of the examples and initiatives you've heard about that seem to be effective in this regard?
Yeah, simple things like, usually companies, when they do, for example, training on a product, they would say, hey, how do we help people or our employees learn about the product, the features, the benefits and things like that. So it used to be very mechanical from that standpoint. What we have started to do when we work with our customers is to help them understand the bigger picture, right? What is that human problem and struggle that needs to be solved with that product? Start from there. Start from making a difference. Start from really improving lives in whichever way possible. It doesn't have to be something very big. It can start with something very small, and that is perfectly fine. But make sure that people can connect to other people, and people can figure out that, yes, there is a larger purpose to whether we are selling, whether we are making a product, whether we are selling a service, whatever that might be, does not matter, but that there's always a larger purpose to it. Help people understand that. And once you do that, everything else kind of get ties to it, the benefits and the features and the pricing and so on and so forth. Earlier, everybody used to start with the other things first, the pricing, the competitive advantage and the product features. And after a while, that becomes kind of dry. And you say, what, is that what I'm going to be doing my entire life? But you're really going to be solving problems. You're really be making a difference. And so we help our customers understand that start from there, start from exactly the core issues that your product or your service is solving, and make it into a human element, give it a human flavor to it. And then from there, lead everything else.
And I think, where you were kind of maybe going with this is that too many people, like whatever the initiative is, be it, product, talent development, any of that, people try to boil the ocean. Here's this massive program that we are going to roll out that all 972,000 of our employees are going to take, or, whatever, some ridiculous number, when they don't realize or appreciate how much of an impact just helping one or two people at a time can make, because that creates a ripple effect within the organization. Start
Absolutely.
small.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that 972,000 people is made up of 972,000 individuals, right? So you have to look at people as individuals. You have to connect to them at that level and not just think about them as data, and not just look about them as a target population. So I think that personal human to human pieces have to be brought back into how we do work, how we interconnect with one another, how we do business, how we talk to our own family members. Everything has to be put in that context. And I think we just have to come back to the basics. And the pandemic has shown us that those basics make a difference.
They do. I mean, you hear about all of these stories where people had opportunities to sit at the family table together, have dinner together. Parents of teenagers have said, we haven't seen the kids out of their room in years, that kind of thing. And it's been wonderful in that regard. And go ahead, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say that, everything that we are talking now, it might seem like, what does that have to do with learning or development or training? But really, that's at the crux of it. Because learning at the crux of it is really about humans. human interactions, human communications, learning. And so that is at the crux of it. To the extent we understand that, to that extent, we become better trainers and better educators.
And that's really the world that we live in. I mean, you've queued us up nicely for the next question I want to ask you. It's around those basics: human skills, soft skills, life skills, people skills, social skills. I mean, everybody's got a different name for them, but it's about, how do you relate? How do you connect? And what the audience may not know is that Indresh and I have a relationship that's been going on for several years. And so we've built that up. We've built that capital up on both sides of the relationship. And it's wonderful. I'm certainly honored that I reached out to Indresh and he's like, absolutely, I'll come onto the show. And that's what it's about, building those connections one at a time and how you're relating.
Right, right, absolutely, absolutely. And it's interesting that you raised that issue about, the soft skills area. I just want to say one thing though, is that, in soft skills, we all talk about soft skills as being how to communicate, how to motivate, how to solve problems, how to innovate as a team. And all of that is great. But there's one soft skill that I think really that drives everything. And perhaps we may not have thought about it from a soft skill standpoint. And that is the soft skill of self-awareness. Before we can know others, we have to know ourselves. So we have to know, who are we? What are we like? What do we feel like? What are our emotions? What are the things that scare us? What is it that drives us? So self-awareness, I think, is one of the core soft skills that has to be developed before all of the other soft skills can be developed. Because if we are not comfortable with our own shoes, we can never be comfortable when we are interacting with others.
And that's maybe part of the impetus behind why LinkedIn last year pushed emotional intelligence, which wasn't on the top 10 soft skills list at all, straight like up to number 5. I'm surprised, I agree with you, that it's not number 1, because within that emotional intelligence is self-awareness. If you're not aware how you're acting, or things I'm doing or I'm saying are making you uncomfortable, and I'm not observing how you're reacting and responding, it does. It all begins with self-awareness. I've missed something. I've lost the plot, right? How are we going to build something?
Yeah, Loralyn, I just want to turn a little bit to Dina. Dina is an MBA student at USC, and she's been kind of really, hitting the road with all kinds of subjects and accounting and finance and marketing and sales. So all of the curriculums. And I was actually talking to Dina and asking her, what's the focus now on soft skills in the MBA programs, which usually was not there before? Do you know, Dina, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, it's actually a great question. It's a major focus, Indresh and Loralyn. We have courses on communication and soft skills and leadership that really focus on the people management and relationships, and they really drill that down and how important that is. The majority of our case studies really come down to relationships, and especially when it comes down to leadership as well.
Absolutely. And then the goal is, this is one of the things that we're trying to push, is that it goes beyond being taught in a couple of select MBA programs, because it's not all, into the universities, into the colleges, into the community colleges, into the high schools, and then into the elementary schools, right? We've got a long way to go, but that's definitely the path that we need to take. And since you've queued up on the education, then, Indresh, I'll ask you, do you have a message for educators and trainers out there? What do you want to tell them, how to prepare this next generation for what's ahead?
Yeah, the next generation is awfully smart. They're amazingly aware. They're amazingly driven. They might overthink a little bit, but that's okay. But I think they're really driven from an area of deep commitment and to making a difference to everybody, not just people that they know, not just their friends or families, but even folks they don't know at all across the globe. So I think that's one key piece that kind of stands out. If there was one gift that we educators and trainers, people who are mature, from an age perspective, could give to Generation Next, it would be the gift of our presence. And what I mean by that is just listening to them, just being there, just having them interact with us, listening to what they are thinking, listening to their questions, listening to their trials and to their struggles. And as they're talking to us, they're also figuring out the answers themselves. So I think we don't have to talk at them. We don't have to kind of lecture them. We just have to be there for them and give them that gift of presence, like I said, listening more and just understanding and just saying, yes, we understand you, we get you.
Exactly. If the world listened more than we spoke, right? What would it be? Pretty amazing. So last question, last thought. I'm going to ask you to fill in the blank. The world needs more.
I would say openness and balance.
Excellent. So with that, I want to say thank you again to Indresh of Sify eLearning for coming out on the show today and letting people know some great ideas in and around how we can listen more, be more actively engaged, and really dial in and tune in and build those relationships across generations, because we can all learn something from each other. Any parting words?
Absolutely. I just want to thank you, Loralyn, for this great program. You bring diverse perspectives to this program, right? You have different speakers every week. Everybody comes with a perspective. And so your audience really gets to see this wonderful perspective from this wonderful group of people. And it just makes for such an enriching thought process for them as well. So thank you so much for making that happen.
Well, thank you for that as well. That is one of the goals that we have behind STEERus. We really envision ourselves one day, we're the acorn now, but of being a global brand, and we need to listen to everybody out there. Diversity comes in every flavor. There's, you don't have to put a label on it, just hear and listen and get different perspectives. So thank you for that, because we do take pride and do try to do that and represent the audience we serve.
Thank you so much, Loralyn, and thank you so much, Dina.
Thank you, Indresh and Loralyn.
Thanks, Dina. Thanks, Indresh.